What's up, ladies and non-ladies? It is Serial Killer back again. This time we're going to go over all the runes that I have on my monsters. I've had a few people ask about it, and I've never done this before, so let's get into it. A couple of these monsters are great monsters that you probably should use. I don't, for specific reasons. When I come across those monsters, I'll probably tell you how I would rune them and why I don't use them. The first one that comes to mind that fits that bill really well is Konamiya. She is excellent in raids. I don't use her in raids because I have both Amarna and Nikki. If you don't have both of those, I would use Konamiya for sure. I really liked Ravidi and Kona together. I like to use two cleansers in raids. Most people don't. I think it makes your runs way safer. I often find myself runing Konamiya mid-month for like a specific use. Usually in Guild Wars, I'll want her attack buff and resurge, and I'll end up slapping some runes on her kind of mid-month because she does a really good job. The problem is I use her so infrequently, I find myself usually not having runes on her. 100% needs to be violent. Requirement. She gains so much from violent. The auto attack stun is amazing. Potentially my favorite part about her, even though her other two skills are both glorious. Her stun chance on her auto attack is huge. Before the Frankensteins came, she was, the best auto attack stunner that you had, except for maybe a Varus. But there's kind of some contingencies with a Varus stun. That being said, you want speed on 2, and ideally hit points on 4 and 6. You want like 30 to 40-ish% accuracy for probably about anything you're going to do with her. If you're building her for something very specific, specifically PvP, the accuracy might need to be a little bit higher. Julie is very straightforward. My Julie is a little bit weaker than she used to be. She ended up getting a little bit weaker when I got my second Lucian. Julie is definitely going to want to be attack, crit damage, attack. Ideally, you would have her on Rage or Fatal. Mine is on Double Blade, and this is my third highest damage rune set. I have one Rage set on one of my Lucians. I cannot make more attack and crit rate and crit damage using Fatal or Rage on this Julie than by giving her broken sets. So that is why she's on Double Blade Broken. It is better in my case than putting her on, say, Rage Blade. She would have literally less stats. Gildong, the almighty powerful. Oh my god, look how close I am to getting this cooldown reduction. It is, oh my gosh, I want it so bad, so bad. I literally used stones, I think it was the last rotation. Didn't really even super want any of the 5 stars or 4 stars, but the Fire Taoist was in the rotation and I wanted a couple. I ended up getting 0. Your Gildong, basically another violent requirement monster. He gains so much from it. You want his skills cycling. His auto attack is glorious. So you want him on violent, you want him on speed, and then ideally hit points. You could put a defense rune there. It's going to hurt you when fighting Jultans. Aside from fighting Jultans, hit points is about the same as defense on him. Technically, defense might be better for non-Jultan TOA stuff. I would still say put him speed hit point. That way he has no problem digging through the Jultan passive on TOA. You also want your Gildong to be the second fastest member in your TOA team for most floors. I want my Spectra to be the fastest monster, and then my Gildong to be the second fastest to get that stun out before anyone has a chance to do anything nasty, like the counterattack on the Kung Fu girls or any of that kind of stuff. The Spectra doesn't proc the counterattacks, and then once the Gildong goes and stuns everything, then you don't have to worry about them counterattacking. The one interesting side note is when I run a Tessarian in TOA, I usually run my Tessarian faster than my Gildong. It kind of depends what you're doing, but depending on what you're fighting, you could go either way with that. But for most circumstances, you want your Gildong to be the second fastest member of your TOA team. My Sigmarus right now doesn't have runes on her. That is not because she is not amazing. She is super amazing. I pulled runes off her to put them on Chilling for some testing, and then I pulled them off Chilling to put them on a Dark Martial Artist for some testing, and then I scattered the runes around there as well. I like Sigmarus on Violent, another basically requirement. She does so much damage, I don't see much value in going Rage or Fatal on her. She just does not need it. She already overkills stuff like crazy. I like to have some accuracy on her. I would be really happy with 40-ish% accuracy. And most of the time I run a Sigmarus, I put speed on 2. Again, she hits so hard that a lot of her damage is overkill. In a perfect world, in like a really, really fast Dragon's 10 setup, you would want her to have attack on 2, but you would also want her to be a $160, a $170. I was never able to do that on the quality of runes that I'm going to give a Sigmarus, because my better runes usually go toward my Guild War monsters. So my Sigmarus was always speed on 2, or at least usually speed on 2, crit damage on 4, attack on 6, and basically requires violence. Rigel does basically just Necro for me, but he is perfect there. You want your Rigel either Violent Revenge or at least double, potentially triple Revenge. One could argue either way. I think Violent is better. At the same time, I run my Rigel Violent Revenge, and I believe my Fuko is double Revenge. I don't think I have all 3 on him, simply because I don't have enough runes to Violent Revenge both of them. Same kind of build. You're going to want attack, crit damage attack for certain things. I really like speed on 2. I run speed on 2 on my entire Necro team. All 5 of my monsters have speed on 2. It is not ideal for the boss because some of that speed gets wasted. It helps so much on waves 1 through 4. I 100% think it's worthwhile. If you can put attack on 2 and have your monsters be 160 speed, all the more power to you. Again, those quality runes, like I need like my best 6 runes to put attack on 2, have all the good crit stuff, and get 160-ish speed. And I just can't afford to give that to my Necro monsters. That kind of stuff is on my Arena offense monsters and my Guild Ward monsters. So mine is speed, crit damage, attack. I would highly recommend trying that out. It sounds like not the ideal for a Necro monster. I like it way better than attack, crit damage, attack. Theomars. My Theomars is extremely different. It's not built like most people's. I do think Theomars is another monster that requires violent. What most people would suggest is speed on 2, and then crit damage on 4 and attack on 6. I have attack on 2 for 2 reasons. One, just a simple lack of quality of runes to be able to get him to hit hard enough with speed on 2. But the kind of deal breaker here is that my Theomars will not proc endure on enemy Theomarses when I put speed on 2. I'm able to get first turn with speed on 2, but I don't even hit it hard enough to proc the endure, because some of my enemy Guild Wars Theomarses have 18,000 life. I switch to attack on 2. He is probably 30 speed slower than he was with speed on 2, but it works so much better. I never get first turn, but I proc endure anytime I hit something. It's also really nice for the violent proc. When you violent proc, you gain more from the attack than the speed, and I'm talking about on that second turn. He does more damage with attack on 2 than speed on 2. The scaling is better. Most of the time, speed's probably still a better option just because you want that first turn, but inside of a violent proc, it's already your turn, and you gain more out of the attack on 2 than the speed on 2. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing this if you use your Theomars a lot. I use my Theomars for very specific things in Guild Wars, almost exclusively for Emma. What's that chick's name? Emma and Delphoy and Theomars is about the only thing I use this guy for. So it fits really nicely with attack on 2. Also, I fairly recently got some accuracy on him. He's still pretty terrible at putting an armor break up, but he'll do it like more than 0% of the time, which is how often he armor breaks at like 10 accuracy. So I like 20-ish% there. My Alicia has not had runes for months. She probably will not have runes until if/when I build a Shield Will AO Cleave team. Julie hits 74 times harder than Alicia in first turn if Julie's at full health, and if you're going for like a Speed Leader Bernard team, you're going to go first anyway, you're at full health, the Julie hits harder. Alicia is amazing as soon as the Julie loses full health, because now the Alicia can do competitive damage, and if the Alicia kills something, then the Alicia will do more damage. If you can kill something with her third and then move into a second, you'll do way more damage than a Julie. In order for that to happen, you have to be able to land an armor break on a relatively squishy target and kill it with your Alicia, which I was having problems doing at the time. I'm very happy moving from an Alicia to a Julie. My Galleon right now is basically a full support monster. I messed around with trying to make him a DPS monster on free rune removal day, and I did not enjoy it. I just didn't have enough go juice on him, so I moved him back to just a regular support monster. He is on violent, and he is speed, hit point. I like my Galleon to have 85% accuracy. He still misses his armor break way more than is acceptable, but at 85% or higher, you're at least getting as much mathematical accuracy as you can. In order to do that, mine ended up a violent focus. Still relatively tanky, just no attack, no crit rate, no crit damage. That's okay for me for what I use him for. I use him almost exclusively for easy content that doesn't matter, and Julie Guild War offense, and his current stats do plenty. All I need him to do is put the armor break up, and Julie will do the rest for me. This beautiful beast, my Emma, is double will. She will stay double will, quote unquote, forever. I don't see removing double will from her until if and when I ever put her on my arena defense. I really liked her as double nemesis will on AD, but for everything but the AD, having double will is glorious. I use her with Copper and Bulldozer very, very often, and Emma is so much faster than Copper Bulldozer. When Emma has 2 will sets and Bulldozer and Copper have 1 will set, they both carry the immunity in about the same amount of time, and it gives me plenty of time to get enough done, to get far enough ahead in the battle that I don't need her immunity anymore. It couldn't necessarily hurt to have 3 turns of will, but you really don't need 3 turns of will, but you gain a ton out of having 2 turns than having just the single turn. And my Emma is speed, hit point. That is going to be the way you're going to want to use her. She could have hit points or a defense on 4 and 6, but you lose a lot of value from her heal. So you really want to force speed, hit point, regardless if she's in your AD. If she's in your AD, defense basically isn't even an option. And frankly, it's not an option at all. But then you also have to worry about Lucians. You want this chick double will, speed hit point for Copper Dozer Guild War offense. There's a lot of value to throwing Violent on an Emma. I can't see myself going back. This double will stuff is just glorious. I love it so much. I do not have will runes, or I do not have runes at all on my Orion. I can't make him fast enough to do anything that I want to, so I haven't bothered building him yet. I have skill ups for him. I've played around with him a little bit. I need to get another really nice set of either Swift Despair or Violent runes, and I don't have any of those set, so I don't use this little bugger. Stella is a monster that I was really excited to get, and I got very little use out of her. She's potentially super usable in raids and dragon speed teams. Anything that I tried doing with her was better with someone else, which is why she doesn't have runes right now. She's an amazing monster. I don't have the setup to use her the way I want to, so I don't use her. My water homo does extremely little for me. I do have him on a decent set of runes, mostly just in case I need to farm like a secret dungeon for some skill ups, or I used him to great effect to auto the easy levels of TOA this reset. It's really nice that he AoEs with every button. I don't like using him as a farmer, just because the extra clear time from him doing Feynman super fast, in my opinion, usually does not make up for the efficiency loss compared to having my Fuko do Chiruka. If I had like an abundance of red gems, that would change things, but I'm generally red gem poor, so I'm not super interested in time. I'm more interested in efficiency. You're definitely going to want this guy attack, crit damage attack. You see mine is just plus 12s because he's kind of like an afterthought. He does have all of his skills unlocked as far as the flow chart. I do not have any Devilmon in him though. This beautiful beast, Tractor, I've changed things around on him a few times. He's always built, or at least for me, I've always had him built relatively fast, at least compared to like a Copper or Bulldozer. Relatively / super accurate compared to almost anything. And I want a bunch of hit points and a bunch of defense, just pure effective health, never die juice. And I've gone back and forth between Vampire, Destroy, and Revenge, and I think I've decided that either Destroy, Revenge, or Revenge, Destroy is like my favorite. I kind of require, air quotes, one set of Destroy, and then you can kind of mix in Destroy or Revenge in the rest of the sets to literally negate any enemy wind monkeys. If they have a wind monkey and you bring Tractor and the right monsters, preferably 2 fire guys, extra preferably a Kamoon and a fire panda or someone similar, you just delete the enemy's wind monkey and then it becomes a 3v2. Aside from that, everyone uses him. Well, I guess not that many people use him. Everyone talks about his amazing passive, which is why you use him. You build him for this passive. You have to keep in mind his auto attack is arguably the best auto attack stun in the game. It's a relatively low chance, but it is a triple hit. The way this game does accuracy and resistance, I would have to actually do the math, but I feel like you land stuns with this triple hit, even though it's a relatively low application chance, way more than with like a Varus that I've been messing around with. You can get his application chance up to 45% on a triple hit. That's ignoring accuracy and resistance, that's roughly 80-ish%, but that's way more likely to land than just a regular monster with a single hit ability that has an 80% proc chance because of the way accuracy and resistance interact. This is a pretty sweet button. Sometimes Usually, I'll auto attack instead of the AoE taunt. I'll almost never AoE taunt, and when I do, it's because I have to lock down 2 people at the same time. Usually I can ignore the Wind Monkey, and then of the other 2, a lot of times there's a Chisoon over there, which I don't necessarily trust him to land his auto attack on. So if it's a Chisoon and something else I want to screw around with, I'm much more likely to taunt. If it's, one specific monster that isn't wind that I really don't want to go, I'll auto attack because it's a much higher chance of landing that crowd control. Then we've got Chilling, my second newest 6-star. I built him fairly recently, got him a little bit of skills, or I actually got him max skilled. I forgot I got his auto attack up. I was trying to mess around with him in a Speed Dragons team. Didn't have a whole lot of luck. I wanted to play around with it more on Free Rune Removal Day, and then I just wasn't feeling it on Free Rune Removal, so I just stripped him for the time being. I'll be messing around with him again either mid-month this month or at the end of the month on Free Rune Removal. I think the way that he should be runed is definitely Violent and definitely Speed Crit Damage Attack. I don't think he's worth the slot if you're going to bring him as a support monster. He's tanky enough as is that I think he should be built for damage. Speed, Crit Damage, Attack. Or potentially, you could argue attack on 2. I think you would be wrong, especially now that his auto attack scales up 2, and his auto attack just has so much usefulness. Not only is it doing damage, but it's like the best strip in the game by miles. And it's the best strip in the game because of his passive, and then it's also an extremely good slow application. Because of the utility on that, you want speed on 2. Here is what is probably my favorite monster. I think I'm willing to say she is my favorite monster. I love this chick. Cannot get enough of this beautiful, sexy beast. I think ideally you would have her on maybe Despair or maybe Violent. At the same time, I think you would want her 250 speed. I can't do that, so mine is on Swift and not even 250 speed. But she gets it done. Eventually, maybe she'll get onto a Despair or Violent set. As of right now, I'm pretty happy as is. I do use her in my arena defense, so one could argue that double Nemesis Will would be pretty sweet. If I didn't use her in like 85 to 90% of my arena offenses, I might consider that, but I need her, or at least I want her this fast. And actually, I could lose a little bit of speed for her in arena, but I can't afford to lose any speed for her in Guild Wars offense when I'm using her, Zinc, and Lucian to kill enemy Theomarses. That's really my biggest speed soak here. Now mine is speed hit point accuracy. That is probably not the way you want to build her. She does have cool debuffs, but I would much rather have a hit point rune right here. The problem is I'm a little light on Swift runes, and they're spread around to the point where to get her as tanky and fast as I wanted, and still have, at least 50-ish% accuracy where I wanted her, I had to put an accuracy rune on 6. You can see I really don't care so much about the accuracy at this point. I haven't even powered up her rune, and I love this chick. She's totally worth the mana. It's just she's at 82% already, and that's probably a decent amount more than she needs to be. And then my last water monster is my Super Saiyan Butterfly, Psamathe. I really, really like this guy. At the same time, I think he's pretty exceptionally overestimated. His leader skill is amazing. That is why I use him. His damage is not really great. His first ability has a relatively low chance to strip, and honestly, his second skill has a relatively low chance to increase their cooldowns by 1 turn, and it's 1 turn, not full like Zyros. Now that being said, and then frankly, his revive bomb thing doesn't do that much damage anyway. In general, his damage is not great considering he's a 5-star. He is there to get my Bernard first turn. Not that he's bad, he is just not nearly as needing a nerf as other people. If anything, more people need to get 33% leader skills for the arena, because that's all this guy is. He's a 33% leader skill with some pretty mediocre other abilities. Now, when it comes to runing this guy, you're probably going to want attack on 2 if you can fit it. Mine has to have speed on 2. And you're probably going to want crit damage on 4 and attack on 6. He doesn't do great damage, but he doesn't need to be tanky because you kind of want him to die to try to proc the Despair Stun on the Revenge. Now where it gets complicated with this dude is he gains a lot from Despair, Will, and Nemesis, but you can't fit all 3 on. I think ideally he would be Despair Will or Despair Nemesis. Mine ended up being Despair Focus because I was trying to get some accuracy on him, and that's just the only way I could do it while keeping his crit rate up. The Despair is pretty straightforward. He has 1 AoE attack and he automatically AoEs when he dies. Nemesis will cause you to come back from your death and cast your automatic AoE and then get a turn because you took so much damage that you died that you now get a regular turn, and hopefully you're smart enough, or the AI is smart enough to use your AoE. So with Nemesis runes on him, he gets to go like twice in a row. Now the other thing you might want to consider for your offset is a set of Will runes. He has a pretty cool passive on him that allows him to automatically do an AoE attack after he dies, and if you have him on Despair, that has a chance to stun everyone. But if you hit another Psamathe with your own Psamathe, or a Delphoi, or a Zyros, you reset the cooldown on his passive and prevent that from happening. If you rune your Psamathe with a set of Will runes, then they won't be able to reset that cooldown unless they strip you first. Alright guys, I'm going to cut this one up into pieces. The water units are my biggest chunk. I use a lot of water units, so this one took a long time. And I'll probably do like 2 elements in a row. I recorded it all already. It's just like an hour and change long, so I'm going to cut it up into smaller videos. I think that'll make it more useful if you're specifically coming to this going, oh, I really want to rune my blank. Let's see how Serial does his. You can, have all of the elements kind of in one place. Alright guys, thank you very much for sticking around this long. Hopefully you gained something out of this and enjoyed yourself. Have a good one, and see you next time.